Hey, what's up guys, my name is Charlie. Today we're going to be doing some more requested reaction videos, and this video is requested by Ieza Torres. Alright, just like B'Elanna Torres from Star Trek Voyager. But yeah, Action 52, History of the Worst Games Ever Made from Concept to Console, is the request today, and it's gonna be absolutely painful, because we all know how bad Action 52 is. I wouldn't say it was the worst game ever made, and technically it wasn't one game, it was multiple games. And, I know you're thinking, wait, Charlie, it is the worst game. You're right, it is one of the worst games, but, it's probably in the worst games of the top 10 list. I don't think this is the holy grail of bad games. When I think of the holy grail of bad games, you know what I'm thinking of for the NES. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. God, I said it. That piece of shit that should not even be even a concept of thought and reality. And probably Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure. That was by LJN, of course. The Rainbow of Death. Laughing, joking, numbnuts. But yeah, those are the two games that sort of pop on my mind. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Those are perhaps one of the two sort of worst NES games. So yeah, the Action 52 is definitely in the top 10 worst, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's number one. But then again, it is sort of number one because there were so many multiple bad games. Because, when you're playing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you know what you're getting. You're getting one bad game. But with this, you're getting 52 bad games. So technically, it wins in that factor. And you know what? The Action 52 price was absolutely ridiculous. It was absolutely silly price. And, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it was bad, but, it wasn't this expensive. So there are points and systems and things going on with that. But, like I said, I think Action 52 is perhaps in the top 10 worst. Definitely in the top 10 worst, along with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure. Yeah, everyone's got different opinions and factors on what accounts the worst sort of NES game. But yeah, let's check out the video, shall we? Let's go. Shoot on my Christ, they made a standalone game for that, didn't they? It was like Cheap Men 2 or something, whatever the hell that was.
I say, dear chaps, shouldn't you go on a diet?
Are you talking to me? Maybe if these guys would make these holes bigger, I could fit in, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, I'll help you out.
No worries, no.
Christ. They were gonna turn this into an entire TV series, weren't
the
they?
Action 52 game world where every game is...
Yeah, we're talking action and lots of it. We got space, dragon, adventure, even war games.
Yeah, dude, we even got rescue games, and man, they're smooth like ice.
It kind of
Hey,
sounds
what
like
about you
Sylvester
Oh, yeah,
Stallone,
we're
sort
in
of.
here, too.
I hope to God that
Cheetah
wasn't
Man.
Yes,
him.
but that's another story. If you want the ultimate game challenge, you have to get Action 52.
Yeah, it's so cool. 52 games in one, and you can even play it on Nintendo. Man, it's awesome. Get yours now.
Now playing
Oh,
at a store near
Christ.
you.
52 bullshit games. Well, actually, some of them didn't even fucking work, so you didn't really get that amount of games. That's what the game does, it breaks the video. Action 52.
There is a legend that every retro gamer knows. A legend of an NES cartridge so awful it collected not just one, not just two, not even three, but 52 terrible games in one space. Sold for the same price as a games console. Today we uncover the bizarre legend of Action 52.
52, yes.
Now, it's likely you've heard of this atrocity, but for those of you who are just meeting the game for the first time, well, allow me to introduce you.
You're in for a
Action
shock.
52 is an NES game with, well,
What are they
52
for the
games on
second?
one cartridge.
Second?
It had a big advertising
Sega
push
as well?
with adverts, TV commercials, and even a competition. But it quickly
I
went
heard it
down in
was
history as one of
planned
the
for the
worst
Sega or
cartridges
something.
you could ever buy. All the games were a glitch-filled mess ranging from impossible to understand to completely impossible to play. It also features the infamous Cheetah Men, but more on that later. So, how did this abomination come into creation?
Oh,
well,
boy.
for that we need to travel back
Only
to the late
$200.
80s, the era when Nintendo owns the video
That's a
game
lot
world.
of fucking money back
anyone
then.
who was anyone was playing
It's
the
a lot of money
NES.
still today.
The Mario vs Sonic rivalry was yet to start, and for the time being, playing games meant playing Nintendo. They had managed to single-handedly pull the games industry out of its crash after shoddy products had flooded the market. And for now, it seemed like you get some quality assurance by playing
Official
the NES.
Nintendo seal of
Well,
quality.
for the most part.
Well, we know how
But
shitty
deep in
that
Taiwan,
quality stamp
a seed
was.
was being sown, a seed that would grow into the idea in the mind of a man named Vince Perry, who just happened to be the head of Active Enterprises. Perry is shrouded in mystery. He's never been heard of since Action 52, and there's no pictures of him anywhere.
Wow.
Even more strange is people have tried to track him down, out of sheer curiosity, but not one person has achieved results. Vince Perry
course,
is
they're not
an
fucking
enigma.
private
He seems to have existed
detectives.
solely to create Action 52 before disappearing into the shadows. And kind of scarily, when people do seem to be getting close to some answers, their contact will send them a single all-caps reply of,
Why do you want to know this?
even if their contacts are supposedly separate people. Despite the riddle of both Perry and his company, Active Enterprises, perhaps no others in the gaming industry have left quite the same legacy, or at least not quite as great a mystery. Fortunately, some of this tale can be uncovered. In fact, an old press package from the game tells us exactly how this all started, straight from the mouth of the mysterious Perry himself. Having a young kid, Perry was fed up having to pay around $60 for a new NES game.
Oh yeah, they were
Until
full
one
price
day,
back
he
then.
came across an illegal cartridge from Taiwan. A cartridge that just happened to have 40 games in one built into it.
Damn.
Buying it for his son, he was clearly impressed with the concept and began telling all his neighbours, who apparently went crazy for it. Seeing their reaction, he had the genius idea of doing the exact same thing,
Of
but
course.
legally, in the US. And thus,
Made in the
Action
USA.
52 started. And Perry's mind
It should have been
very,
fucking
very
illegal.
quickly ran
Should have been
away with
illegal
itself.
for this shit to be released.
While he went around collecting various shady investors from Europe and Saudi Arabia, his plans for the future got bigger and bigger. Why, this was going to be such a quick and easy way to make money. Why not make a franchise out of it? It couldn't be that hard, right? Well, there was no time to waste. One small problem, though. Perry didn't know how to program, and it would take far too long to learn. Hell, why should he have to do it? He's the creative genius. Best find someone else to do it for him. But he couldn't just make the developers appear out of nowhere, and he didn't want to spend too much money on them. He needed someone desperate for a job
Of
that would do
course.
it cheaply. Turned out in the end, he didn't
Cheapest,
even need
the
to
cheap,
look for
the
them.
lowest of the
Instead,
low.
a chance meeting set things into motion. Perry had an office space in a recording studio, where he would occasionally hold meetings about his new business ventures. It just so happens that a young man named Mario Gonzalez, yes, it
Wow.
really is a man named Mario who happens to also be named Gonzalez.
Well, there's
It's
a guy
little
called
bit
Bowser,
strange,
so...
but he happened to be working at the same studio after recently finishing his degree in video and audio production. In early January
Surprised he didn't become a
1991,
plumber.
Mario met with Vince Perry with a proposal. Perry's grand money-making scheme of Action 52 had been overheard by Mario, who took interest in the idea and decided he wanted in. Mario informed Perry that he had experience in games design and happened to know two college friends also with gaming experience. They would be happy to take the job. Perry was intrigued, but requested a demonstration of their skills.
Of course.
Agreeing to this request,
Precautionless.
Mario soon had assembled his team of Javier Perez for art and design and Albert Hernandez for programming, both who were happy for the chance at a job. Mario himself would take on music and design. With all three taking up the challenge, they soon had a working Tetris clone called Megatris, programmed
course.
on an Amiga 500. When they got round to showing Perry, he was extremely impressed and quickly gave a demonstration to some of his investors who had similar responses. Truth is, this response was only because the Amiga was far more advanced in terms of graphics and sound, than the NES they were comparing it to. But either way, the three landed the job, and were sent off to learn how to program using Nintendo equipment. But only for 2 weeks. After all, they had to get started. It's around this time that the fourth member of the team joined. Unfortunately, he's yet to share his name as of the making of this video.
Maybe that's the best thing.
He,
Maybe he
alongside
should
Mario,
share his name.
is responsible for most of the information we know
His
about the
shame
game.
is too great. His
I'll
dishonor
call
is
him
just
Developer
terrible.
4 or Dev4 for short. Developer 4 and the others had met a few years prior at the very same recording studio. Having kept in touch, Dev4 was surprised to learn that they had all gone to Utah to learn how to make Nintendo games. Upon their return, he decided to visit them as they got to work making Action 52. While at first it was just to hang out, he would soon find himself taking on new responsibilities. The recording studio became their base of operations. The day started at 11 AM and ended at 11 PM earliest. Normally it would be around till 1 AM, but sometimes they'd be there till 6 in the morning. And because of the fact it was a recording studio, every single wall was soundproofed and essentially cut off from the outside world with no natural light. It acquired the name The Cave and was essentially their home for the next 3 months. Ah, yes. You see, for reasons quite unknown,
Yeah, long-term
Larry insisted
isolation,
that all
bad
52
idea.
games needed to be completed in just 3 months.
Yeah, not good.
So in around 12 weeks they had to storyboard,
like
design,
fucking
develop
ET
the
Atari.
program and test to make sure it was playable. Now bear in mind, 3 months was normally the minimal development time for a single NES game.
Yeah, but 52?
They had 52 to make. It was evident that Vince Perry didn't really quite know how big a task this was, something that would become even more obvious as time went on. He was only in the studio very occasionally. He'd pop in, sometimes with some coffee, and then leave fairly quickly. As Mario himself puts it, this is where the adventure really began.
Okay.
And it started with title names. Ooze, Dead Ant, Rocket Jockey, those all made the final cut. Some games like Power Throne and Volatile didn't.
Okay.
Artie and the Inkmen was held back by Mario, as he felt it had potential to be a standalone title. But Mario Paint's release basically used the idea in the end. Although a game called Boss exists in the final product, it's not the one written here. Boss was originally the idea behind Game 52, which was at the time known as the Action Game Master. We'll come back to that later. The scope
Fucking hell,
of the
so much
games had to
information,
be
slow
held
down,
back
fuck.
slightly,
Overloaded
and they
my
often
cortex.
changed drastically in concept to save
My
time.
brain stimulations is failing.
Dead Ant, for example,
Christ.
became Dead Ant, a Space Invaders-esque shooter, rather than the initial idea of exploring a large ant colony to find food for the queen, while enemy insects hunted you down. Dev 4, meanwhile, had been spending a lot of time at the studio, watching the others work. Eventually, they trained him on how to design backgrounds and sprite animation on D-Paint, the PC software they used.
Oh boy.
He even fully designed around 5 to 10 of the games himself, and eventually he also came fully on board with the project, but never got round to signing any form of contract. In fact, at most, all he and the other developers ever got was an advance of $1,500 for all their hard work.
Wow.
And they even had to talk Perry into giving that to them.
Jesus.
This advance was only probably given to them because of how overconfident Perry was becoming with the project. He was certain it was going to make him millions. And he was already planning
Overconfidence
ahead
and
further.
greed.
A Super Nintendo version, a Genesis version, they were already
Genesis
in
version.
his mind.
Yeah, I heard about that.
How could he
that
make
there-
it even more
this was
popular?
gonna be released
Well,
on the
at the
Genesis.
time, the world was in its Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle boom.
Oh yeah.
These characters were
Teenage
big
Mutant Ninja
business. If Perry could replicate that, he'd be set for life.
Aye,
So he got to work making his own superhero team.
of course. Cheetah Man.
Remember how I said Game 52 was originally known as Action Game Master? Well, a game by that title no longer exists on the cartridge. The original plan was you'd have to defeat the bosses of the previous 51 games to win at Game 52. But
I
this
like
idea
you
was
wanna
thrown
play
out
all
when
fucking
Perry
games.
announced He had a better plan. Enter the Cheetah Men.
The Cheetah Man.
What was Vince Perry's answer to Ninja Turtles? Ninja Cheetahs.
I don't know.
This was going to be the
Shoot 'em.
major game,
Shoot 'em
with
in.
lore and an epic plot. He even got a comic book made to come free with every game. It advertised future issues, action figures, t-shirts,
It's
and
a
even
good
planned
plan, though.
TV cartoon
It is a swell
with, quote,
plan.
Disney quality animation.
Disney quality.
Once again, we can see how Perry didn't quite have a
Disney
grasp at how
quality.
game making works.
Oh, this guy's way
By the
over
time
his
he
head.
announced his grand schemes, it was a little too late. The basic idea of the Game Master was already in place, and switching all their
I keep
efforts to
getting
make one game
Bethesda
would leave all the others
standards.
unfinished.
Your
Thus,
usual
the characters of
Bethesda's
the Game
Fallout
Master still
standards.
exist in the story of
It keeps-
Peterman, as does the
Oh,
returning
what's
enemies
Bethesda
and
got to do with
characters
this?
from the other games.
I just keep getting that
Perry
popped in
wasn't
my head.
worried though. Any problems could be fixed in the
Our
sequel.
usual Bethesda.
Instead,
Fallout
what Perry was
standards.
more worried about was that Mario
What a
wasn't
load of
spending
shit
enough
that
time
was.
at the studio. While the other three were working hard, giving regular status updates via a hotline, and living off the 24-hour donut shop,
Mm.
Mario's time was being taken up with his own personal issues involving his girlfriend, who oddly enough was the inspiration behind the game Bubblegum Rosie on Action 52. Although Mario had created a graphics template to make sprite creation 10 times easier, and assured Perry they were fully on schedule, Perry didn't want to know, and thus Mario left the group.
Hmm.
Problem was, Mario had made almost all the music. With him now out of the picture, there was only one thing to do. Steal music from elsewhere, of course!
Of course, or reuse it.
Alongside a Miami Dance CD, which had some voice samples they could use, songs stolen directly from other game developers were also plagiarized.
Shush.
Activision's The Music Studio for the Atari ST had its music put in several of the games, and another company, Sculptured Software, had its music engine directly copied into Action 52. And that wasn't all that was copied either.
Oh my god,
They
this
still
is
needed a
insane.
menu system to select the games.
Ugh.
The solution was simply buy more illegal multi-cart games and copy the menu from that.
What a load of
Eventually,
bullshit.
after 3 months of living off donuts, working non-stop
Yeah,
in a
there's nothing
room with
wrong
no
with living
sunlight,
on donuts.
until they had the bright idea to remove the soundproof installation, Action 52 was suddenly announced finished. It just suddenly
Oh,
ended.
boy.
They hastily added a start menu, alongside some more stolen music, and the remaining 3 guys left. They didn't have a chance to playtest most of the games, leaving practically every single one of them unfinished. They didn't really care though. The developers went off and partied all weekend on the beach.
Hmm.
Perry's job though was not yet done.
He's got a
Nintendo
salad.
had rejected the game. So there went all hope of Perry ever creating a licensed NES title. All the same, he still tried his best to get the game out there, sending flyers, pamphlets, and even commissioning a TV advert.
Huh.
His craziest scheme was a competition where if you managed to beat level 5 of the game Ooze and send in your unique code as proof, you would win $104,000.
What?
Half of which was cash, half of which was a scholarship. The screen you'd have to send in as proof is indeed in the game,
Wow.
but the code is anything but unique, being the same on every cartridge.
Oh, come
You couldn't even
on.
send the code in anyway. Ooze was impossible to beat, as it crashed every time after level 2. Despite these dubious advertising tactics, at first it seemed to work. A fair
course
few
it did.
did sell. But unfortunately this all backfired pretty quickly. Word of mouth began to spread. The games were a mess, some of them didn't even work, and the price was insulting.
Yeah. Ooh,
Bear in
that
mind,
price.
the Super Nintendo cost $200 on launch, and Action 52 was asking for the exact same price.
Yeah, silly amount.
Action 52 was now causing Active Enterprises to struggle more than ever. It was falling into tons of debts due to its failure. Perry was trying to come up with more and more crazy ideas of how he could turn this all around. His first tactic was to make another Action 52 game for the
Okay.
ever-popular growing Genesis.
Genesis.
Hiring Albert and Javier once again to make this new version, this time they even had the help of an actual gaming studio, in the form of Farsight Technologies. They still even advertised the fact they made
The
Action
Eye of
52 on their
Saruman.
website.
The evil of death.
Action 52 Genesis
It's like an Egyptian
actually
eye.
was far less buggy and had a lot more time put into it. Most of the games are, believe it or not, playable.
Wow.
No. Despite this, the reputation of the NES Action 52 had crippled any chance of this version ever selling well.
Of course.
Its failure also meant Perry gave up entirely on making a Super Nintendo version.
Maybe it's for the best.
By 1993, Active Enterprises was at death's gates. In a last-ditch effort, Perry tried winning some people over in hopes they'd invest and save the company at the Consumer Electronics Show. Evidently, Perry was still overambitious about the company. He still claimed a TV show, action figures, and more were on the horizon for the Cheetah Men. Despite nothing
That's what happens when
coming
you
of it.
start with greed.
He even had the guts to
If you're
claim
only into
they were
making
making
money,
animatronic Cheetah
and
Man
there's no
costume
passion behind it,
to go to
you're not going to
events
get
and
far.
promote the games. Yeah, I'm not joking.
Passion
Action
comes
52 was
first,
going to be
then the
advertised
money.
by a giant
Remember
robot
that.
cheetah. That's not even the craziest claim though. Alongside a Cheetah Man sequel, Active's final foray into video games was none other than the proposed Action Game Master handheld. And oh boy, was this a fool's dream. Apparently, this supposed handheld console would be compatible with NES, SNES, and Genesis games.
Damn.
Now, ignoring the fact that it looks ridiculous, its screen is of bizarre proportions compared to the rest of it, and that there's no visible cartridge slots, the actual ability to stuff 3 consoles' hardware into one playable system
That is
was
just
completely impossible in 1993.
unrealistic.
It doesn't even seem like it would be portable to begin with. If the screen was 3.2 inches big, overall it was 15 inches wide. It's not really
Jesus.
surprising, is it, that no
Says
one
your
tried to
laptop
save
screen.
Active Enterprises. Thus, the company came to an end. Riddled with debts and unfinished promises, Active Enterprises faded from existence.
Maybe for the best.
Warehouses were left full of their unsold games, and even contained the unreleased Cheetah Men 2 that wouldn't be found till years
Ah,
later.
yes. Cheetah Man 2.
Turned out, it was basically the same as the first game.
Yeah.
As for Perry, he disappeared and was never heard of again, until recently, when it's believed that he passed away.
Ah.
The 4 developers never saw any return for their hard work, and never had anything to do with the project again, until recently, when 2 of them told their tale. While Action 52 isn't a good game, or really a good idea to begin with, it's most definitely one of gaming's best and most fascinating stories.
Well,
It gives a peek into the world
Very
of video
bizarre.
games in a time where it was believed they were
quantity
get-rich-quick
over
machines.
quality.
An idea that hasn't completely faded, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Still
hey,
going on today.
At
It's
least
a
we're not
shame.
getting completely unfinished games still, right? Right? Right?
Oh boy.
Oh dear.
That's the end of the video. Yeah, that was it's just a reality check for those who put money and
Hey
profit.
everyone, thanks for watching my new video on
Over
Action
passion.
52. This episode was part 1 of a multi-part set of episodes where we're going to look at some of the older and stranger myths of gaming. You know, that people have heard of, but never really known the full story about. But don't be surprised there are some standalone episodes to break it up between the parts. If you enjoyed this video, then why not check out the rest of the series? And if you want to stay up to date on when to expect a new episode, as admittedly
what's that?
they release a tad sporadically
PlayStation.
thanks
What?
to my
Is that like a
university
Japanese
commitments,
version?
then make sure to follow
What
me
the
on
hell
Twitter.
is that?
The link is in the
Rare
description.
PlayStation.
As usual, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, as every little helps. I'll see you guys next time.
What the hell is that console? That's bizarre. Okay, that's the end of the video. Oh god, man, that game just makes me tired and bored. Okay, yeah, that was Action 52, history of the worst game ever made from concept to console. Yeah, the game absolutely sucks. Well, games, that is. Most of them didn't even work. But yeah, like I said, it's debatable if this is the worst. I find it the most fascinating history-wise. I mean, it's perhaps one of the most fascinating sort of history-wise sort of games out there in a way. a bit like the Atari ET game. You know, it's very fascinating. And, you know, I never really considered the Atari ET game to be one of the worst Atari games. I mean, maybe the top 10, but it's definitely not the worst. Come on, there are much worse games out there. But yeah, Action 52... Dear God, I feel sorry for those who bought it. I mean, in a way, you're lucky if you bought this, because then you're a part of history, and then you got robbed of $200. So it's a kind of sucky part of history. You know, I wouldn't really say that's a blessing. So yeah. But either the case, I mean, Christ, if I spend that amount of money on this game, I'd be fucking pissed. I would be absolutely fucking livid. I'd be losing my shit. But yeah, the game sucks. I think we all knew that already. But yeah, it was fascinating to see the history behind it, and I can tell why that guy kept his name a secret. He didn't want to be involved. But yeah, it's a shame, because this is a history lesson for those who don't understand. You know, quantity over quality. You know, when you're gonna make a game, make sure there's quality and passion behind it. Don't just make a game for profit. You know, you can do that later on in life. You know, but you know, quality first. But yeah, true meaning of history, a lesson of video gaming right there. But yeah, if you like this video, make sure to give it a like, comment down below, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.